Welcome to the Advanced RPO podcast, Advancing Talent Acquisition, where we bring you insights, tips, and trends from top industry experts. Our very first guest is Pam Verhoff, President and CEO of Advanced RPO. Pam has over 20 years of experience in talent acquisition and RPO, and she's passionate about impacting clients' bottom line and creating a culture where employee engagement is top of mind. Pam, welcome, and thank you for joining us and for helping kick off our very first episode of our podcast.
Thank you, Jenna. I'm thrilled to be here and excited that we are actually. This has been a vision of ours for some time, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. So
Yes.
thanks for having me.
Yes. Will you share with our listeners what your vision is for the podcast and what they can expect in upcoming episodes?
So as I think of, as we've talked about the vision of our podcast, it's really to educate the world on everything talent acquisition. We're very fortunate to have a team that has just extensive experience in recruiting and hiring, and we want to share that experience and help organizations meet their goals through TA strategies. And so not only will you have access to our immediate team members, but we will have clients and others, across our network that will be joining throughout over the next year through this podcast. So just really excited to share and quite frankly educate, because I just think there's tremendous opportunity to continue to evolve talent acquisition for organizations.
Yes. And we want to make it quick bits of information that you can take away and leave the podcast and have actionable items that you can implement on your teams or with your organization. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about the current state of talent acquisition and what lies ahead. If you would tell us what you think, why is TA such a critical focus for organizations today?
Well, when I hear that question, my immediate reaction is, people are organizations' greatest asset, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, it should be a critical focus. But as I think about this, organizations that prioritize talent acquisition, they're ensuring they attract, hire, retain the right talent to drive their business performance and organizational goals. I mean, there is a direct correlation between the two. Think of talent acquisition directly impacts organizations' ability to meet their strategic goals and maintain competitive edge.
Exactly. I look at talent acquisition sometimes as like the front line. I think people think often sales or marketing people tend to be the front line, but recruiting really is what brings in the people that drive the organization. So
Yeah.
not having that as a top priority focus can really impact, as you said, your overall business and your results and your growth, frankly.
Right. Right. And when it's done effectively, you minimize your turnover, you minimize your training costs and productivity loss, quite frankly, that could be associated with quote a bad hire. So,
Yeah.
it does. It all starts, at
Yeah.
the strategy around bringing the best talent into the organization.
Yes. Okay, so what hiring challenges are organizations facing today, and what do you think they can do to better position themselves for success going forward?
Oh, there are so many challenges.
We have 5 hours.
And I think about, so when I hear that, I think that, do think the challenges are different depending upon like who you're hiring, where the majority of your hiring sits, right? Whether that be professional hiring or entry level hourly hiring. So when I think about, I'll start with professional hiring. I think the greatest challenge is right now addressing the skills gap while balancing candidate expectations. And, I'll elaborate on that a bit in that technology is really, it's advancing quickly and it's outpacing workforce skill development. Therefore companies need to go out and hire the right talent. The quote right talent may not be specifically located where you in the geography that you want them to be. Their
Right.
salary expectations may be higher than you expect. So now, when you look at those, you're balancing three key requirements: skills, location, and salary. So because of this, I think it's really critical that the TA team conduct an in-depth market analysis prior to
Uh-huh.
launching or even posting a job, and this will give you insights into talent availability and how your total comp package compares with the market. So, and you know this, Jenna, you do
Yeah.
this, every day for our customers. It's, too often people get so far down the path and then get, frustrated as a hiring manager because they can't find the right people when, the reality is they may or may not have the right package to be able to attract.
I think a lot of times they underestimate the steps that you take up front to really position your brand and your organization as an employer of choice. And I think people often think, well, I work here, it's a great company, everyone wants to work there. Well, there's so many great companies. And with social media and technology today, there's so much information out there for people. And so you really have to show what is different about working for your organization, and don't take for granted that because you work there and you know that everyone will know that.
Right, right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, how do you see tech and data shaping the future of recruitment and hiring? This is a big one because this, AI is everywhere.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, tech and data are really transforming recruiting and hiring. AI streamlines processes like resume screening, candidate matching, chatbot engagement. All of those things help reduce time to fill and improve efficiency.
On that point, I think companies have to really embrace that technology, and so do employees of organizations. It doesn't mean that jobs are going away. If you really look at, like, even our organization at Advanced RPO, we have replaced a lot of steps with technology, but it creates new roles and new ways of working with clients. And so, really embracing that and being more consultative, right? Letting the machines do some of the work that can be done and letting us use more of our expertise.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want the team to be their time spent on the highest value as opposed to just transacting. And so where there are transactions, we can, leverage technology to do that. Absolutely. There's data analytics that help forecast hiring trends and predict candidate success and, quite frankly, identify potential retention risks. So enabling us to use make data driven decisions versus, just this gut decision, if you will.
Right. And data from multiple sources. I think, internally, that's our methodology, is looking at multiple sources. There's a lot of data out there. And so it can be overwhelming for organizations to look at, where do I get my data? What's accurate? And so working with organizations like Advanced RPO or companies that can provide valuable data that really give you a different perspective, not just government data or just employer driven or employee,
Hmm.
really bringing all of that together, I think is what's going to tell the story and help companies make the best decisions for hiring.
Right, right. There's also machine learning. Machine learning really enables really very tailored communications to candidates and provide feedback to candidates and so on that really enhances the candidate experience. So, I think we've talked about candidate experience for years. It's always been important, but the technology today makes it, quite frankly, very easy to do that in a very personalized fashion. And, I think candidates expect that.
They do. Yeah, they do. And it can make or break. And I think the old school mentality of, well, if they don't want to take the time to do these things, they're not the right candidate for us. We really have to look at what they're evaluating their experience when they're interviewing and going through the process of what it's going to be like to work for that organization. So if it's not streamlined and easy to follow and candidate centric, they're not going to have a very good view of the overall organization to start.
Right. Right, right. One comment that I'll make that we see that I just find very interesting, and we navigate it with our customers every day, but I think customers expect our providers to come to the table with, these are table stakes. These technologies that we're talking about are table stakes, but it's also does require, in order to leverage these technologies, in some cases there needs to be integrations with your, with the ATS or the systems of the company. And we often get some pushback and some, get challenged around that. From a TA leadership perspective, I want you to be thinking about, what it really means to bring these technologies to life. They are incredibly powerful and effective when done correctly.
And there's a happy medium. You don't always have to do it, doesn't have to be the extreme, right? You can control what visibility and things. And so, yeah, I think just not having such a hard no, we don't integrate. or just a full yes, but really looking at what parts as an organization can you allow a partner to come in and integrate to really give you the best overall experience.
Right, right, exactly.
What excites you most about the future of the recruiting industry today? 2024, kicking off 2025.
Well, I mean, just the evolution of technology is exciting. I mean, when
Yeah.
I look back even over the last 5 years and how much change has occurred and how we work so differently today
Yeah.
than we did, I'll say 5 years ago. That change is going to accelerate faster and faster as we move forward. So
Mhm.
that's exciting. But I think, at the core for me personally, what's most exciting is what's kept me in this industry for 20 plus years, and that is knowing the immense impact that recruiting has on business outcomes. I said it earlier. There's a direct
Mhm.
correlation, and I love having the opportunity to consult with our customers and different organizations and helping them build, best in class TA programs that really drive business results. We had a client earlier this year just say, they had the highest revenue year ever, and it's a
Yeah.
direct result of the fact that we were able to, we hired the right people on time for them.
Yep.
And there's just nothing, I mean, from a business perspective, that's incredibly meaningful to me.
And that goes back to the point that TA is really the front line. So if your talent
Yes.
acquisition team isn't top notch and you don't have the right partners and technology in place, it's going to impact everything in your organization. It's a domino effect.
Right, right, exactly.
Well, I have one last question for you, and I'm excited to end every podcast with the same question for each guest. And what we want to do is create a library of tips and expert advice that we can share, obviously in the podcast, but also on the side if somebody wants to look at what are our top industry experts saying as far as career advice goes. So, what is your top career tip that you'd like to share with our listeners? It's a
Uh,
loaded question.
yeah, I guess. I would say I would say focus on continuous learning and embrace new challenges. I do have children of working age, if you will, and I tell them, oftentimes I think individuals have a very kind of defined career ladder in their mind, and they, it's like I'm going to take step one and then step two and so on. And what I've found with my own career is that I've, along the way, I just, if there was an opportunity that presented itself, I would say, yeah, I'll do that, I'll try that. I've not done
Yep.
that before. And so my career path as a result of that isn't necessarily what I expected it to be, but it was incredibly fulfilling. So I think, it's okay to take lateral moves throughout your career to expand your experience and knowledge base. I personally, I think knowledge and experience are incredibly valuable, and that's ultimately, in addition to skills that you bring, but that's ultimately what builds your career.
Yeah, I love that. And I always say, and this is something I've done throughout my career, is really do a risk analysis. Like before, when you're making a decision, what's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? And what's the worst that can happen? So you try
Right.
something and you don't like it, then you try something else, right? It's not, we put so much weight on these things that oftentimes we miss opportunities because we're so afraid, like you said, to step outside of the path that we thought we were going to take. But yeah, just do a
Yeah.
risk analysis and go forward
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be forever, right? And that's what I think, that is the weight that's we carry with so many decisions. It's like, well, if you hate it, then do or try something different, right?
Right,
So,
right. And thank you so much, Pam, for joining us and sharing your insights today. It was great having you to help kick off our very first podcast. And then for our listeners, we have some great guests and topics coming up. So please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on any future insights and tips and trends that are happening in the industry. And if you have a topic that you're interested in that we have not done a podcast or an episode on, please share in the comments what you'd like us to talk about, and we'll create an episode around that. And then we have a wealth of information and resources on our website. So when you have some free time, head over to advancedrpo.com and browse around. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.